Hello friends and welcome back for another episode of Indie Impressions. My name is Nick and today we're going to be checking out something called Slam by developer Takori. It's a very short, very simple top-down action shooter, and I would sort of liken it to something akin to perhaps Super Crate Box from top-down perspective, if that makes sense, only minus some of the ramping and scaling and difficulty stuff. It's a really interesting, very simple concept. Just shoot some spheres as they come at you and we'll have to replenish our ammo as quickly as possible. But I just really like the way that this whole game was really refined very nicely and has a great art aesthetic, great soundtrack, and every little detail about it seems very well polished, so I figured this would be a good one to show off, and it's, reasonably addictive as well. So let's take a quick look here. We control this basic little sphere, and we get this line to show us our point of view of where exactly we're going to be firing toward, and that is our gunfire blast. At first I thought it was like a laser beam, but I think it's more of like a bullet. Now, normally we do have limited ammo, but since we're in the title screen area, we actually can take our time and shoot around as much as we want to get a feel for how this game moves. And on right-click, we can also do a dash move to get us to move a little bit more quickly out of the way of harm. Now, the thing that I sort of find interesting about this game is it's got this sort of hybridized 2D, 3D sprite-based thing going on where you can tell these are sprites that are mapped to a raised surface, so I can actually walk behind this and you can't see me as I rotate around. And of course, we've also got a pretty fancy and wild color scheme going on in the background. It's this sort of burnt orange color that's sort of fading in and out with a bright spotlight. And it just looks really nice, I think. So why don't we do a quick run of this? We're going to shoot this little X to begin. And we'll begin defending ourselves from spheres, I suppose. So in we go. Our basic goal, follow this arrow, go ahead and collect these ammo crates or magazines or whatever you want to call them. We'll splatter these little spheres along the way just to make sure that we have a clear route. And there isn't much in terms of geography. We actually have a very small arena to work with, and I need to make sure to dash because that's very important. But we're just going to be going back and forth. I was a little disappointed to see that it doesn't seem like, and maybe I just haven't played far enough to actually know, but from in my little bit of time spent with this particular game, it seems sort of like we just do continue to go back and forth between these two rooms over and over again, which is super sad because I really like the geometry and I like the color scheme and I like the art approach of this one. And it just seems like I would just love to see more levels. So, if this is a thing that this developer ever wants to work on again, I'm so into the idea behind it, and it sort of reminded me of, this seems like a space that has just been completely unoccupied, because I'd love to see sort of a Geometry Wars style, Super Crate Box style game sort of fused together, where there's a progression mechanic, and this is our final closing screen, by the way. That's my score, my time, how many things I got, how many ammos I got, how many shots I fired, accuracy, and big combos, and then we can just shoot to restart. Or there's actually an X over here too if we'd prefer not to read the stats, in case you were just willing to get right back into the fray again. But as I was saying, in terms of Super Crate Box, it's a game that I love dearly. It's a fantastic game, and I could easily spend hours upon hours upon hours playing it. The only problem is I feel like it ramps rather quickly, and all this— oh wow, that ended very abruptly. The whole general premise of the game is you want to unlock more and more things, right? And eventually you kind of hit a wall with that, and there's not much more to do. I mean, there would be infinite obvious choices to make that you could just keep adding environments and weapons and skins and various things like that. And I could easily see if that was to happen, you could pretty much play the thing indefinitely. And you could also add in, endless different sort of achievements, kill X enemies with this weapon, kill other X enemies, and then that could unlock augmentations. And well, there's just pretty much myriad ways that you could go about artificially extending the gameplay. And maybe it's better that they didn't, but personally, I just love that kind of gameplay, as I've kind of made it relatively clear in many games that I've talked about. I really love games that have a progression mechanic, sort of like 10 Million or Rogue Legacy, where each time you play it, there's some sort of artificial thing that allows you to perform slightly better, whether or not you get better in skill, but ideally you would also get better in skill, so if you don't get those artificial enhancements, things still work out anyway. I really just enjoy when games work like that, and one of the issues I feel might be suffering here is we've jumped from tangent to tangent, but the camera doesn't seem to be zoomed out far enough that I feel like dashing is a viable option a lot of the time, because the camera actually zooms in. I feel if anything the camera should zoom out when you dash, because I need to see where I'm dashing to, right? And in this case I tend to just dash directly into enemies. So maybe that was to make the thing a little bit more difficult, and maybe this is just designed to keep you playing for a very short stint at a time, but I've never had a particularly fantastic run at this, despite having played a number of them by now. But just in general, though, great concept. I would just love to see it be developed more. There's such great polish. There's little details, too, like how a shell casing seems to be expelled every time I fire my gun. These little pegs that seem to be stopping me from leaving but let the enemies in. The fact that the enemies kind of get smeared across the floor, and then there's these great, like, pixelated, sort of retro-sounding gunfire bits every time. And also, I think there's a little variation, too, when I destroy one of the enemies, in that they seem to break apart a little bit differently. And leave a slightly different scatter pattern, too, which is kind of nice. Oh, man, I thought I was fine, and then I ran into another one. But you could see how this could easily be really addictive, and I could also see if the developer wanted to take this into sort of like a Binding of Isaac direction, where there was like a procedurally generated bunch of rooms connected with various enemies. The aesthetic with the sound effects and the music, I would easily play this for hours. So it's infinitely expandable, and this is the type of game that I look for on Indie Impressions. Whether or not it's complete does not really matter a whole lot to me, but I look for things with good infrastructure, good ideas, good things to build upon. And this one, I feel, is definitely the whole package, which is amazing to say so much praise around just such a simple concept, right? Because this is an idea that, essentially, a run could take 20 seconds, and that could be the end of that. There's not really either leaderboards or, you know, good ways to keep track of your progress as you're playing the game, so it's not like you're really going to know if you've accomplished a new high score, and there's not really a way to track your scores between runs. But that's okay, it's just a simple little game just to give you a quick bit of fun, and then you can move on to something else. But I'm just saying, I would love to see more. So I'm definitely going to be following this developer in the future, and I hope you guys might be interested as well. In fact, I'm going to be looking into this developer's portfolio if he or she has other things that I can go investigate, because I really like the art of this. And, well, I don't know. It's simple, it's good, it's clean, and it's just right. And all of a sudden, I think I've kind of flummoxed myself by spinning around. You know, it's great that there's such good sensitivity, but if I spin really fast, it's like too much sensitivity. So maybe there should be a little bit of an option or a slider for something like that. But I'm not nitpicking, honestly. It's not unmanageable. I think I've just been playing rather poorly as well. So I'd love to see how far you guys can get if you happen to spend a bit of time with Slam. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you have any particular criticisms, what you might do differently, what you might do better, what the strengths, what the weaknesses are, and of course, just your high scores if you want to. Feel free to chime in on those as well. It's a real small file. You can go ahead and download this. I'm surprised there isn't a browser version as far as I can tell, but I don't think this one was maybe made in Unity, which, you know, that tends to be the reason why that happens most of the times. The Unity web player just sort of jumps out pretty much everywhere. And, you know, I haven't been dashing all that much. Oh, I ran out of ammo, by the way. That's what that sound was about, in case you're wondering. And you could also try and play this as a pacifist, but I don't think you'll get very far, because you keep having to go through this bottleneck between the two wider rooms. And I love that subtle flip of that arrow, those chevrons each time. You know, all the little details, like I said, they really add up to something pretty nice. Anyway, I will leave you for today. That's been another episode of Indie Impressions. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, consider leaving a like on the video. It helps me out a whole bunch. And I will be back again tomorrow for another one. New episodes of Indie Impressions go up every single day. So I hope to see you back for that, and I hope to catch you again tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Later.